I think DFO is even acknowledging to some degree that, hey, like we don't have the expertise that we need to do the kinds of testing that we're doing. We need to find other laboratories to do it. They're putting in a surveillance program for infectious salmon anemia now. That program may develop over the next couple of months. It might be operational by next summer, we're not sure. But what we're talking about here is a virus, according even revealed yesterday, it's been around since at least the late 1980s. So one has to question why only now, 2 decades later, are we setting up a surveillance program for this disease?
Why does it seem like it doesn't seem like it? They've been denying there is even an ISA virus.
Well, they have been denying, but I mean, it's become abundantly clear that they do have the information that there is a problem, that this virus is around, and I think so long as it remains in the atypical, avirulent form, they're not likely to take any action of any consequence.
Why do you think the DFO is putting so much time and money into protecting the Norwegian fish farm industry?
It's a very good question, but it's not necessarily viewed as the Norwegian fish farm industry, although it has its roots in Norway, and Marine Harvest Canada is one of the biggest companies operating on this coast. But it's not just about fish farming. And the federal government in Canada, the United States, and Europe are all moving towards a global economy. And the winners in this game that are going to be coming out in the long run are global corporations. And the individual governments of individual countries want to share in the wealth that that global market will generate. So they have to support it in some way, shape, or form. But I don't think that it's proper to support it on the backs of our environment, our diversity, our sustainability.
What's your gut feeling as far as what collapses the sockeye salmon runs in the Fraser?
Well, I have my own personal opinion about that. It's not just the sockeye populations. It is sockeye, coho, chinook, steelhead. These have all been on the decline for the past decade. And in my view, I would think that fish farms have a significant role to play there. And more than anything else, the issue with fish farming is the control and management of diseases and pathogens. They simply cannot be controlled in an open net pen environment in the sea. When you have 1 million sick fish in the water, they're all excreting virus, and that virus is just being carried far away on the tide. Wild fish, not only salmon. I mean, one of the things that we're ignoring here are the keystone food species for the Strait of Georgia, the herring. One has to ask, and one has asked, well, how did rivers inlet fish get infected with ISA? They're nowhere near fish farms. Well, the answer to that may be in the herring. Herring are known to contain and carry and be susceptible to some of the very diseases that are affecting the aquaculture industry, including viral hemorrhagic septicemia, infectious hemorrhagic necrosis, and I believe may be a vector or a carrier for ISA. Those fish are in and around, through, inside those pens, coming into contact with net pens all over the place, and then migrating huge distances, and salmon are feeding on them. It's a very easy way to transmit disease. We're not even looking at that. We're not addressing that concern. And there's evidence out there, in Norway, for example, a new disease that's kind of showing up is heart muscle skeletal disease. They've recently identified it as a virus, but one of the transmittal vectors of transmission are groundfish that are in and around the areas of fish farms. So we haven't even scratched the surface. So we don't even understand the dynamics about fish disease. And the single biggest problem that we have in order to protect the business interests of these corporations that are operating when they do have sick fish in the water, the last thing they're going to be required to do is cull those fish and kill them, because essentially what they're doing is throwing their stock out the door. We saw that with infectious hemorrhagic necrosis when the big outbreak occurred in Vancouver or British Columbia waters. They were simply allowed to continue to grow their fish and harvest them at will. In the meantime, the virus is being excreted, shed by these fish, and passed on to wild fish stocks. It's really mismanagement at the highest level.